Now let's see json.parse. Json.parse is used to parse a JSON string. So from json.stringify or from whatever source, you have got a string which you know that it is a valid JSON string, and you want to construct native JavaScript values or objects from that. So that is the purpose of json.parse, which means that if I have an object foobar, which is a native JavaScript object, I converted that into a string. JSON.stringify obj, I got this string which is like this. That is fine. Now if from this string I want to get back the original type of object, right, this foobar, right, then I can do json.parse and I can pass that string to json.parse. So json.parse, the argument is a string which you know that it is a valid JSON, and then it returns you the native JavaScript object. So this obj2 is like foobar. But note that this object and this original object are different. Okay, so if original object, if you simply assign to some variable, let's say obj1, then they are not copied, they are same only. It is just that you are assigning reference, which means that obj1 and obj both are pointing to the same memory location, to the same object, right? But and that's why if you write obj1 triple equal to obj, then it is true because both are basically internally they are the same. But if you write obj2 is equal to obj, then this is false, which means that the original object was obj. After stringifying and again parsing, you got obj2. Then these are two separate objects, though their value is exactly the same because obviously everything was same. The same thing I stringified and same thing I passed back, that's the same. But the thing is that they both are separate objects. In fact, there is a proper name for it. And so this is a copy. You can understand it like a copy of object. I have copied this data into this new variable, right? So here I have not copied the data. Here I have just copied the reference. Internally they are still the same. But here I have copied sort of the data. So JSON to stringify and then doing parse on that. It is a way of copying the data from one object and take the whole data and take it somewhere else, right? But only the values, not references. Okay, so that this is a completely different thing. If you change anything in obj, nothing will be changed here, right? Both are completely different. And why I'm emphasizing on that, because this type of copy is called deep copy, which we'll see in some next set of videos. The deep copy, where they are completely independent and they don't affect each other. There is one thing which is like the normal assignment, which is like they are identical, obj and obj are identical. But there is something else called shallow copy, where some things are copied, some things are copied just as references. So we'll discuss those later. But right now just understand that JSON stringifying and then again JSON parsing it back, that creates a copy, and that is technically a deep copy. Okay, later we'll see what it is. And the same thing applies to arrays. So array I stringified, parsed, again I will get the same thing here also. They are completely different array, in fact copies of array, right? So yeah, if you simply assign take the assignments of in some other variable, then yeah, both are technically the same object, and that's why it is true. But ARR and ARR2, they are completely different objects, and that's why they are false. Again, we knew that it's not only that JSON stringify takes objects or arrays, it takes normal values also. So for example, it used to take true, right? Like, so JSON stringify and you pass true, which is a boolean value, then it returned you a string which is true, right? But if you again parse it back, so let's take some variable, let's say v is equal to json.parse. Parse json should be capital, and in that if you pass this stringified version, then what v you are getting, you are getting actually again true. And this is like boolean true, you can see that. Okay, this is boolean value. Yeah, so you can see that from the string I'm getting back the native true false, native boolean, right? So and so whatever the values are supported, like decimal, like numbers, or even null will work. So if I write null here, then you can say that, yeah, native null, which is an object, that it has been converted. If even you can write b triple equal to null. Yeah, so you can see that that is true. Okay. Again, these are primitive types. That's why even if you did stringify and copy, like anything, let's say you do hello, right, and you test it with some hello, and they are true. So primitive values, even you do stringify and parse, like no copy is created. Yeah, obviously copy is created, but technically primitive values can be compared by value, and that's why it will give you true. But non-primitive values are compared by base address, and that's why if that is at a different memory location with a different data, they will give you false, right, when you try to do equality. Okay. Yeah, so this true string parse, it is a boolean true. 5.2, this is a boolean, this is a, sorry, number 5.2, right? 5e plus 2, this is a string. And here now we can clearly see, right? Earlier we saw that, yeah, when I do 5 5e3, right, then I am getting 500, sorry, 5000, 5 into 1000. But actually, this is not interesting, because 5e3 automatically changed my number also to my number s, let's say some, to, and if you print s, right, then this is not interesting, because this s was not 5e3. S was not 5e3, S was already 5000. So S was already 5000 string, and then it is converted to 5000 numbers. So this is not interesting. The interesting thing is that if you try something like this, will this work? If this works, then means that this thing is valid JSON string. Yeah, so S is not defined. Now you can see it works, right? 5e3 is a valid JSON, and we discussed that E format is supported, E number format is supported, and that's why this thing is giving you. However, if you write something like OX12, then you see that this will give you error, or simply O12 octal or hexadecimal. These will give you error, right? You have to give proper numbers, and then only it will work. And E format is also supported. So that is what here, this format is supported, but these two will give you error. And again, if you parse a proper arrays notation, stringified version using JSON stringify, then only it will work. If you like array.toString, whatever the string you got, if you try to parse that, that will give you error. That is obvious. Now again, we discussed it. Null is a valid JSON object, right? JSON data, JSON string, it will be a valid thing, right, in JSON, and that's why null string in JSON is a valid null value, and that's why it will give you null. However, this is like null, native null, right? Because you have passed it. However, if we try to do undefined in quotes, which means that this undefined string, is it a valid, undefined is not valid, right? And that's why it will give you error. 1 to null 4, yeah, 1 to null 4, it will work fine. Null is a valid value. Foo null, yeah, valid. Foo undefined, again, see, it is a string with that thing, somehow, let's say, this will be never returned by some JSON stringify, but let's say somehow you manually created this string with foo in quotes and these things, then it will be giving you error, right? It will be giving you error. What if you change this double quote to single quote? What will happen? So we'll see that that is not supported. If it is single quote, then that is not supported, and if you try to parse that, that will be error. Okay, so till here it is fine. Till here it is fine that you are doing, yeah, some foo, and let's say 5. Yeah, till here it is fine, right? And But if this thing is single quote, and how do you write single quote inside single quote, right? So one way is that you make it single quote, but then it will not work. You have to make the outer thing a double quote. That is one way, right? And see, it is giving you error, right? Another way is that you use a single quote only, but then you escape the internal quote, because inside single quote, if you want to again use single quote, then you have to escape this. So yeah, so this thing, and again this thing will also not work. This will give you error, right? However, just here double quotes was working, right? But this whole thing is in single quote. If I make this in double quote, then again this will not work, because see why it is not working, because double quote is starting and double quote again it is getting. So see, so JavaScript is thinking that my string is ending here or what. No, your string has to end here. So you have to skip these things, whatever additional double quotes you are having, right? And anyways, we don't want to bother about these things, and that's why whenever you need double quotes, better to create a string into single using single quotes. Whenever you want single quotes, better to create a string using double quotes. And if both are needed, then better to use template, like for example something like this. Uh, yeah, yeah, I'm good, something like this. So here double quotes, single quotes, both are there, and they will work fine, because I'm using a third kind of thing, backtick. Again, if you here you want to use backtick, then again you have to skip that also. So yeah, those things, you can use it. Okay, was there something left there? So yeah, so it was, and again empty. See, empty. This is just curly. This is not empty object. This is a string having two braces, right? Starting brace and ending brace. This is a string. You parse it, then you get an object. So this thing is an object, empty object. This is a native thing. Json parse. This is exactly what we discussed. This hello hello, this will give you error. Why? Because this hello as it is has no meaning in. You see, if it is true, then it knows that true is some value. Null, then it knows that it is some value. Hello has no value, no meaning in JSON, right? If you meant this string, then you write it in double quotes. Simply writing hello does not make sense, right? Similarly, so that's why if you write hello in string and then parse it, sorry, hello in double quotes and then parse it, then yeah, it means that it is hello, right? And this single quote is coming from this double quote. So this double quote thing is treated as valid string in JSON, and that JSON is converted into and that string in JSON is converted into a string in JavaScript, and this is native JavaScript. This is native JavaScript string, and by default when it is printed on console, then by default they could have used double quote, but they generally use single quote, and that's why it is something like this. Okay, okay, fine. So and sometimes the single quotes, many transpilers will not print single quote, they will simply print HELLO. That is also fine. Just by color you can understand that whether it is string or not. But the point is that if you use like single quote, then it is giving you error. That is what we discussed, right? And again, if you want to use double quotes, then you can use definitely, and if you want to use double quotes with double quotes, then you can skip that. That is fine. Yeah, A5, this should be fine. 1 2 3, yeah, it should be fine. This is what I was saying. You cannot use comma. So if you use 1 2 3 is fine. If you use 1 2 3 comma, this sort of syntax is valid in JavaScript, not in JSON, right? This sort of JSON string is invalid. So JSON will never give you this sort of string. But if you yourself write this sort of string manually and parse it, then it will give you error, right? Error. Key value pairs also, extra comma, error. Now, in JSON stringify, in JSON parse, okay, sorry. So this title should be parse. Yeah. So yeah, this is wrong. In JSON stringify, we saw replacer method, right? In JSON parse, we have a reviver function, right? In reviver function, what happens? That same thing, like key value pairs, we want custom, some sophisticated traversal or some sophisticated custom logic, that you can use using replacer function, right? Similarly, using reviver function, we can customize that how it should be parsed. There we were customizing how it should be stringified. Now we are trying to customize how it should be parsed. So we already have a this thing, string. So when we are having this string which is created from json.stringify obj, so this str is a stringified representation, like, which is a JSON created from this object. That is fine, and that will be in double quotes A5. You understand that, right? That string is created. Now that string is passed to this thing. Then yeah, just ignore this. If I don't use this reviver, then this thing will be like a whole A5, uh, yeah, A5 and foo bar, which whatever was the original thing that was there, right? Reviver function, if I want A10, I don't want foo bar, I want foo bar, which means that in the string str which you are passing, that has what, double quote A5 and then comma double quote foo colon double quote bar. That is what str is there, right? But I don't want to, I'm parsing that stringified version, but I don't want, in my parsed version, I don't want that foo. I just want A10. How to do that? For that, again, the reviver function is used. In reviver function, you can write again the same logic, key value, and again if you simply return value, and here again same thing, like empty thing for whole thing, and that key value pairs traversal, same thing. You can do your own printing and consoling, and you can see that. But I think we have gone in fairly detailed level at the time when we were discussing JSON stringify. But the point is that here also same key value, again whatever my requirement is there. So uh, let's say oh yeah, so why this A10 is there, A5 was there, right? So I was saying that foo has to be deleted, but apart from foo deleted, I also have to, let's say, double this 5 to 10, right? So yeah, so you can use this sort of reviver function where you were saying that, you know what, whenever my value is a number, then just double that number. And whenever my key starts with F, then return undefined, which means that I will delete that key value pair altogether. And if those two are not the case, then keep on moving, which means that if return, you understand, if you go here return, then, or you here return, then from there only you get return, right? So you will never reach here. But if these two conditions are not satisfied, there is a return the normal values, which means that if other things are there, they will be as it is. But here you can see that F is removed, 5 is doubled. Okay, so this is the standard way in which you can use the reviver function. So yeah, that will be all for parsing. This is like this should be fine for you to do the transformation between JSON and native JavaScript structures using JSON stringify and JSON parse. So that will be all for this video. Thanks, we'll see you in the next one.